very good evening to Secretary Professor Asutosh Sharma sir and all the participants. I am P.S. Acharya, scientist with the National Geospatial Program and the National Spatial Data Infrastructure Division of the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. A very good evening to each of you in India and in the neighboring regions. Good morning, good day, and good afternoon to all who are in different other time zones in different parts of the world. A very, very warm welcome to this curtain raiser side event of the second United Nations World Geospatial Information Congress 2022 of this evening. We have in our midst today Professor Asutosh Sharma, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, representatives from the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management Headquarters, led by Mr. Stefan Schoenfest, Head United Nations Statistical Division, New York, invited speakers from India and different member states, esteemed participants who have joined this occasion, colleagues from DST, and ladies and gentlemen. A very, very warm welcome once again to one and all. We are indeed very happy and deem it as a great privilege to have our secretary in our midst to deliver the inaugural address for today's curtain raiser event. We have a very tight program scheduled today with a session on a 360-degree view of the Indian geospatial ecosystem and two panel discussions relevant to the second UNWGIC during a span of 90 minutes from now. Without spending much of our valuable time, may I now request Professor Asutosh Sharma, Secretary DST, to deliver the inaugural address. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am so very delighted to see all of us join together in the second United Nations World Geospatial Information Congress as curtain raiser with a very apt theme, which is towards geo-enabling the global village. I indeed extend my warm greetings to all the participants from India and abroad on this side event that's being organized as a precursor to 11th session of the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management at New York. I also extend my greetings on the occasion of the beginning of the celebration of the 7th year of India's independence. Certainly, we need to strengthen the geospatial ecosystem by involving all the stakeholders. And I'm happy to mention that recently the government of India decided to liberalize the geospatial data sector to empower all the stakeholders, including the private enterprises. This has been done in order to make the sector open to all the stakeholders of the Indian geospatial ecosystem, in making the geospatial data a key currency of the domestic economy. This decision to make the geospatial data free coincides with our celebration of the 75th year of independent India and is a reason for our meeting this evening. Indeed, the history of surveying and mapping and geospatial data has been very old in India. It goes back to about 254 years at least. And there have been many huge achievements in mapping India even 200 years ago. Of course, the technology has changed now, and our expectations from digital data are vastly different from what they were 50 years ago. And so to liberalize and democratize our geospatial data and mapping policy has been a very great step in the right direction. In order to share some experiences with the global geospatial community and to learn from them to strengthen the emerging national geospatial ecosystem, we are indeed excited to host the second UN World Geospatial Congress with the focal theme geo-enabling the global village. In fact, we are also empowering our villages. In fact, it's a very ambitious program called Swamitwa, which would do mapping on individual holdings of our farmers, people who are living in villages. They don't often have a very good digital certificate of their holdings. So this is happening now. Every village, every person there would have a certificate of his ownership together with the map of his ownership. I'm also happy to note that geo-enabling the global village has been chosen as the theme of the second UNWGIC for October 2022. The present day access to the information and communication technologies should now be scaled up to a new, robust, accessible, and useful geospatial information and communication technologies for the benefit of all the stakeholders across the globe. In the word of our Honorable Prime Minister, it should strengthen Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, which means no one should be left behind, that all of us go together, empowering and reaping the benefits of geospatial technologies and data. The philosophy at the heart of the core of the UN strategy for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, and this one would play a very important role. The global geospatial community should geo-enable the global village with appropriate governance mechanisms, innovative tools and techniques, and collaborative partnerships among concerned stakeholders. I congratulate the United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management for providing the necessary leadership in this process. The geo-enablement and indeed empowerment is expected to make the relevant geospatial information accessible to and utility by the producers and consumers of the world's physical resources. For example, land and mineral resources, water, forest, wildlife, air, etc. Those are inherently distributed over space through its lithosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere, atmosphere, and other spheres of activities. All the stakeholders consuming the global physical resources need to adequately understand the availability, interrelation, and utilization of the physical resources, climate change, and the occurrence of various disasters in order to make suitable and sustainable development strategies for increased resilience. I understand that UNGGIM has developed and is promoting the implementation of the integrated geospatial information framework for the utilization of Geo-ICT for the achievement of the SDGs. There are fewer challenges which are greater than sustainable development and climate change, which are truly global concerns. So I'm very happy that this conference would make contributions towards that goal, with a focus on working towards the realization of this vision and deliberations on its progress and achievements of geospatial enabling the global village for achieving the SDGs. I am happy to inaugurate this virtual event, side event. This will provide a glimpse of India's evolving geospatial ecosystem and help in harnessing ideas on the core theme of UNWGIC. That's really a mouthful. I'm glad you have an acronym, so you don't have to say the whole thing. I also welcome the global geospatial community in India during the second UNWGIC in the historic city of Hyderabad in October 2022. I wish a huge success, a big success to this evening's deliberations, and all the very best in your activities to effectively utilize Geo-ICT in achieving the SDGs. Thank you all. Have a great event.
Thank you very much, sir.
India's rich history of mapping dates back to the ancient era. The planned cities of the Indus Valley civilization is proof that people of ancient India had knowledge of mapping. Through the ages, map making in India continued to evolve and even prosper. But cartography really blossomed after the Survey of India was established in 1767. Royal Navy officer James Rennell published the first composite map of Hindustan in 1779 in the Bengal Atlas. In 1802, the Great Indian Trigonometry Survey of India was started. During this period, district gazetteers were tasked with producing accurate maps of each district in India. Survey of India is the oldest and largest national mapping agency in the world. It works in close coordination with other surveying agencies in India, such as the Geological Survey of India, Forest Survey of India, and Zoological Survey of India. The adoption of computers in the 1970s provided real impetus to India's geospatial ecosystem. The launch of the IRS-1A in 1988 marked the beginning of a vibrant national remote sensing program. Subsequent satellite launches of the IRS series through the 80s and 90s helped India to develop an advanced remote sensing and geospatial knowledge ecosystem. The 73rd Constitutional Amendment provided the focus and direction for integrating geospatial technologies into local level planning. Today, India's thriving geospatial ecosystem is driven by diverse academia hailing from over 200 academic institutions. Adoption of cutting-edge technologies and growing geodetic and spatial data infrastructures. In keeping up with the times, India has adopted geospatial data-led governance in multiple areas such as use of geotagging in Manrega, aerial surveying in Swamitva, and socio-economic revival post the COVID-19 pandemic, led by the civil society. To mark the 75th year of India's independence, the Government of India recently has issued detailed guidelines for liberalizing the geospatial data market. This will not only benefit the geospatial industry, it will also have a profound social impact. As a result, the geospatial industry in India is expected to reach a market potential of $20 billion by 2025. India is at the forefront in adopting the philosophy of the Integrated Geospatial Information Framework of UNWGIC as part of its commitment towards Sustainable Development Goals and Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction. It gives the Indian geospatial community immense pride to host the second UN World Geospatial Information Congress, where it will share its experiences and learnings with the global geospatial community and contribute to the growing body of geospatial knowledge infrastructure. It will also be a great opportunity to learn from the global community, thought leaders, and experts for strengthening India's national geospatial ecosystem. To mark the 75th year of India's independence, the Indian geospatial community welcomes you to the second UNWGIC, where this year's theme is Geo-enabling the global village at India's historic city of Hyderabad, a city of great heritage, known around the world as the City of Nizams. Hyderabad is also famous for its mouth-watering traditional food, like its signature biryani and many South Indian delicacies. It's a city that has marched with the times, blending heritage with the modern world that makes it a technology hotspot and the geospatial hub of India.
You have to unmute. You have to unmute. Unmute.
Welcome you all. This is Pankaj Mishra from Survey of India, Government of India. And I welcome you all for this session on the 360-degree view of India's emerging geospatial ecosystem. We have 5 panelist speakers in this session. And as the first speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Shantanu Bhatwadekar from Department of Space, Government of India, to give the Indian Remote Sensing Program overview. Mr. Shantanu.
Yeah, my presentation is to be shared, no, because I don't have the privilege for sharing.
Yeah, the UNWGIC, Brian will share. Brian, can you share the presentations of Mr. Shantanu, please?
Okay, give me 1 second, please. Here you go.
We can't see it yet.
Can you see it?
No. Yeah, we can see it now. Yeah. Well, it was on. It was visible, Brian. Again, it hasn't gone. It has gone. Yeah, it's visible now. Shantanu, you can start, please.
Yeah. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all. I'll just give you a very brief presentation on the Indian Remote Sensing Program. Next slide, please. If you look at the vision and dimensions of the Indian Remote Sensing Program, our prime focus has always been in enabling the national development, improving quality of life, building resilient society, particularly in case of disasters, and better understanding of our system. And toward this, we have a very vibrant space segment with a constellation of state-of-the-art satellites for natural resources and disaster management, ocean and meteorology, and for cartography applications. To commensurate the space segment, we have equally strong ground segment for data acquisition and processing. And also to supplement the space data, we have a good in-situ observation network along with the dissemination platform as well. As far as the space applications in India are concerned, primarily the space applications are tailored for the national imperatives and the socio-economic development of the country, and to ensure that the applications precipitate down to the ministries and departments. We have the strong institutional linkages with every ministry and department in the country, along with the federal government in the states. So the main goal of the entire Indian Remote Sensing Program is to position space and ground infrastructure aligned with the priorities of government, and of course also build the periodic inventory of national resources to enable national spatial data infrastructure, which is being led by Department of Science and Technology in India. Next slide. If you look at the Indian Remote Sensing Satellite System, our first IRS satellite, IRS-1A, was launched in 1988. And ever since, the Indian Remote Sensing Satellite System has been witnessing the continuous improvement in the satellite as well as the payload technology. And today, the Indian Remote Sensing System plays a very key role in natural resource inventory, assessment and management at the country level, the weather forecasting and ocean state forecasting, supports various governmental and societal programs and a lot of citizen-centric services. Near real-time disaster management is one of the prime focus. And also, we support to various Government of India organizations which are mandated to comply with the international conventions like UNCCD, UNFCCC, and the Sustainable Development Goals. And we do contribute to the International Charter on Disasters, BRICS, ASEAN, the Coordination Group on Meteorological Services, as well as for CEOS. So if you really look at remote sensing applications have been institutionalized in about 30 ministries and departments in India, and primarily the entire IRS program focuses on 4 pillars: the socio-economic security, sustainable development, disaster risk reduction, and governance. Next. Here are a few examples I just wanted to show. The under socio-economic security, which primarily deals with the food security, water security, energy security, wherein we have the applications, India particularly being an agrarian economy, we focus a lot on the crop production estimation, crop intensification to bring more and more area under agriculture, utilizing the space-based tools. The potential fishing zone advisories have been benefiting the fishermen community. Almost 7 million fishermen are dependent on livelihood for. Similarly, in sustainable development, we have the very massive program called Natural Resource Census, which is like our human census. We build the periodic inventory of natural resources, which also contributes to the geospatial domain in the country. The biennial assessment of the forest cover being done by the Forest Service of India, and we also have the National Information System for climate and environmental studies. Disaster risk reduction, we almost the entire IRS program supports all the phases of disaster, like preparedness, mitigation to response and rehabilitation. We have the hazard zonation maps for better mitigation, and the early warning systems, primarily for cyclone and floods for better preparedness. And the near real-time monitoring during disaster events is done regularly for all the natural disasters like flood, cyclone, and the forest fires. And now with the emergence and the integration of other emerging technologies, IRS program is also contributing to the various governance applications where we are monitoring the public benefit schemes and the flagship programs of Government of India, particularly time-stamping the flagship programs and evaluating their efficacy on the ground. Next. Next slide, please. Yeah, if we also look at the international cooperation has also been one of the important focus of the IRS program. We have realized the joint satellite missions like Megatropics and Saral with CNES France in the past. And now we are working on NISR with the NASA and Trishna with the CNES France. We also have been accommodating the payloads of other countries like Oceansat 2, and Oceansat 3 is going to have another payload, Argos, from Canes. We do have the data sharing and exchange and Calwell collaborations, cooperations with Brazil, Europe, USA, and Japan. Application development prototypes have been developed for various regions. I am writing particularly like BIMSTEC region for ASEAN and also for UNSCAP. And we also have the active participation in forums like APRSF, CEOS, Geo, and CGMS. Next slide. Now we are, of course, working towards the analysis ready data and the remote sensing based services and advisories. The focus is now shifting instead of directly giving the data to basically deliver the advisories, maybe agrovet advisories for farmers or PFZ for fishermen, maybe even the solar energy forecast for industry as well. Similarly, our aim is to move from the reactive to proactive disaster risk reduction and the data cube with embedded analytical models. The contributions to remote sensing based global assessment is another prime focus where we are working. And of course, we are working very closely with Department of Science and Technology to bring out a remote sensing policy, which is well aligned with the geospatial policy recently enacted by the Government of India. And I am very confident that the remote sensing policy and the geospatial policy of India, which is led by DST, will really bring and build a very open, liberal, and forward-looking ecosystem for the geospatial community in India, as well as globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shantanu. Now, We will move to the next panelist speaker. I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Kumar. He is chair for UNGGIM Private Sector Network. He will be talking about the Indian geospatial industry. Over to Mr. Sanjay.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Greetings to everyone across the world, and it's different time zones. So, thank you very much for joining midnight and early morning from around the world for this event. It's a very, very special occasion for me, as I've been very much involved with the UNGGIM process right from beginning, as well as have worked with many of you who you are attending this event around the world. I take this opportunity to welcome and compliment the Government of India on hosting this UN World Geospatial Information Congress in India next year, which is also coinciding with the celebrations of 75 years of India's independence. In fact, we just completed 75 years of United Nations, and we are entering into 75 years of India's independence. These are very important milestones. And the theme of this Congress, which talks about geo-enabling global village, is very, very appropriate and apt, and especially in the context of India, which is the largest democracy in the world, which is having the second largest demography, as well as probably the world's most diverse country. It's a mixture of all religions, colors, and various kinds of people in this country. We have, people say it's a continent itself. We have 22 languages which are officially recognized. So kind of diversity we as a nation bring, we as a culture bring, is phenomenal. And again, why it is more important is the timing, because right now we are going through a revolutionary change towards developing India as the geo-enabled society. I must say that the application of geospatial technology in India has penetrated even to the remotest part of this large country. Despite the fact that geospatial technology was very much restricted, to the extent that Honorable Prime Minister yesterday, and on the occasion of 75 years of India's independence, in his speech, did made a very special emphasis and mention of the fact that Indian mapping industry was subject to 200 plus years old regulations. And those regulations were there for 2 centuries plus, and they just been done away with, and done away with in a very exciting and promising manner, where you have taken a leapfrog from a restricted regime to almost self-regulated regime, wherein the government has posed a trust in the industry and the citizens of India that even a sensitive subject like or input like geospatial, we are ready to trust, and you develop geospatial industry based on self-certification. That is a role model for the world, especially for the developing world, which are still under the clutches of these restrictive regimes, to make use of this technology. Let's come to the Indian industry. Indian geospatial industry is very resilient and innovative. Why I'm saying these two words, resilient and innovative, that the fact that Indian geospatial industry is one of the most vibrant industry, which has made it possible to take down the applications of geospatial technology to almost every citizen level. And despite such restrictions, but it has taken that away, taken that to that level. And innovative because it has made several customization and localization in the technology field to make it relevant for the unique requirements of our country. We as a large country has unique application requirements in the localization and customization of this technology to serve the user needs is phenomenal. And that is where I would say that is a very innovative industry. Now, just imagine industry, which is about $3 to $4 billion, is actually aiming to be $10 to $15 billion in next 5-7 years, with duly supported by the public policy reforms, duly supported by the trust which has been entrusted by the government of India, duly supported by the programs which are being laid down by the government of India to develop fundamentals of geospatial industry. And those fundamentals are in the form of geodetic infrastructure, data infrastructure, open data initiatives, and more important is the public policies. And I would like to say that Indian industry is poised at a place where it is going to be probably growing at 25 to 50% per annum. But what is unique about our industry is the fact that we have been serving the world. Apart from serving and localizing the customization of this technology, we have been also serving the world. And while serving the world, we would actually take this opportunity to support and to also provide low-cost, innovative solutions and experiences to fellow developing countries, as well as to other developed countries. And this is so important today because as we speak today, last 18 months of experience, which has showed that the world has been lacking on the international collaboration, and the divide which is there has been growing more and more. At such a preface or backdrop, when we are going ahead with a conference which is focusing on sustainability, which is focusing on geo-enabling, which is focusing on conveying the village approach, the village, the global village. Indian culture has always been thinking about or portraying and demonstrating that world is one village. And this is the kind of spirit which our government has put forward. I would really like to compliment this, welcome each one of you to be part of this Congress and work together with the Indian industry and the government to make it more meaningful as well as more useful for each one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjay. Now we'll move to our third panelist speaker, Professor Milab Punia. He's from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and he's also a member of UNWGIC academic network. And he will be giving the overview of Indian geospatial academic sector. So, Professor Punia.
Thank you, Pankaj. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. So, welcome all. And nice to see geospatial fraternity, especially in this COVID pandemic times. And I thank UNWGIC and also DST to host this side event. Now, may I request to kindly go to the next slide? So, as you know that we have been participating very actively in one of the thematic groups, that is UNWGIC academic network, where there are specific expert groups, there are working groups around the objectives of UNWGIC, like integration of statistical and spatial data, working group on support services for disaster services, and so on. And there are also regional committees, like there are regional committees for Asia Pacific region. So a group of academic experts, especially from research institutions and universities, they all come together and they sit and they deliberate. And UNWGIC provides them a forum and a platform to do so. And finally, these recommendations and reports are presented in the annual meetings and are taken up for the further action. From India, we have participation from Aligarh Muslim University. Dr. Mazhar Ali is the point of contact. And then Anna University, Dr. Thirumalai Vasam is the point of contact. And then from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Professor Shanmugam is the contact point. And of course, our university, Jawaharlal Nehru University, is actively participating in the activities. And we have many other departments, like I'm situated in the Center for the Study of Regional Development, where we have scholars from demography, from geography, and from economics, and of course also from geospatial discipline. So of course this is apt a center where people have a disciplinary knowledge of statistical and also geospatial domain. Now, kindly go to the next slide, please. Now, this is a very important slide. As you can see from this slide that in India, there is a gross enrollment ratio of around 27% in higher education, which amounts to absolute number of around 38 million young boys and girls who are there in higher education. And it is also very important to mention that in 1920, the number of girls, the absolute number of girls, they have number has increased, the counterpart than the male. So their gross enrollment ratio means the girls who are in a suitable age group to go into higher education has gone higher than the male population, that is 27.3%. Now, this gives you an idea about a landscape of higher education in India. Like there are more than 1,000 universities, there are more than 42,000 colleges, and there are lots of schools of different natures, both public, private, and various levels like secondary level, senior secondary level, primary, and so on. So Indian higher education is a very huge landscape in itself, and this information that what I'm showing to you, this can be further deconstructed into various disciplines like humanities, liberal arts, and science and technology, and also, of course, engineering and technology. Can we go to the next slide? Now, this is very important to see, like in 2030, there was a committee to look into aspects of geospatial education in India. And that time, the ministry, the erstwhile ministry was called as MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource Development. Now it is called Ministry of Education. Now, some of the members, the prominent members of the committee are still there. They are also participating here. So I'm just highlighting some of the key points which were discussed, agreed upon, and there was a set of recommendations which were announced, and some of them have already been achieved. Like there was a discussion and mention about issues at school level, like there's a need of awareness of geospatial education at school level, and there has been efforts being made both by the private sector and the government sector into this line. And then university level, training and outreach, and need for higher and research. Capacity building, research and innovation, this is again very important component. I would just very briefly, I would like to elaborate upon. There are various institutions, both national level institutions and also state level institutions which are engaged in capacity building. Like example, DST has an IGET program from last 10 years. They have sanctioned and funded more than 170 programs, and we have more than 500 mid-career researchers, including government, NGO, and academic participants got benefited. Similarly, there is an Institute of Eminence, Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, which is a part of ISRO. Over a period of time, since inception, they have trained more than 100,000 participants. That includes a wide spectrum of background. And of course, there are many other examples, but because of lack of time, I will limit myself here. And then, of course, research and innovation, which is a very important component, where there is a funding required. There are institutions, mechanism at both state and central level where research funds are made available, especially in geospatial domain. And they might be situated into research institutes or universities. Now, the question of workforce requirement, like my previous speakers have set the ground that India is going to be about 20 billion geospatial economy, and there would be requirement of the workforce at different levels. So this is clearly deliberated and mentioned that there is a requirement of geospatial skilled manpower, technical geospatial professionals and experts at 3 different levels, so that they can steer and further propel the industry, and where major role is to be played by academia. And then,
Sir, we have 2 more speakers. Kindly blind up.
Yeah, Pankaj, only 2 more slides. Then there is a emphasis on innovation and metric in collaboration. That is also mentioned in integrated geospatial information framework, strategic framework that I will be talking at the end of my lecture. Can you go to the next slide? Yes, please, next slide. Now, this list is not exhaustive, but there are various nature of programs, academic programs, I would say, like say Bachelors of Technology, that is a 4-year program, then Bachelors of Science, then Bachelors of Art, where geography and geospatial education is in a foundational way is provided to the students. But then there comes postgraduate programs. One is academic programs, foundational programs, and then there are professional programs. So there are different credit requirements for that, and there are various institutions which are engaged into it. Now, just to come back to the nature of institutions, as I said, there are institutes of eminence like IIRS Dehradun, there is Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, Thiruvananthapuram, and there are central institutes which include IITs, IIMs, NITs, GSI Training Institute, Indian Institute of Survey and Mapping, that's a part of Survey of India, then NIH Roorkee, Nasi, Allahabad, and there are many others. There are 41 central universities, like ours is one of such universities, where about 4 centers are giving academic programs in geography or in affiliated geospatial domains. Then there are state universities. The list is too long. I have just highlighted some of the earliest ones. And of course, the private sector, there are very good institutions which are playing a major role, like BITS Pilani, BIT Ranchi, Symbiosis, and others. And then, of course, the private universities, which are deemed universities like TERI, NIT, and Vidyapeeth, that is especially for the women education. They are providing professional programs in geospatial domain. And we go to the last slide. Next slide, please. Now, this is I see as an opportunity and strength, as we know that in IGIF, there are 9 strategic pathways to achieve in order to transform the existing landscape and to achieve a dynamic environment where we would be able to achieve $20 billion of market in times to come. So there are 3 important strategic pathways, like strategic pathway number 5 and strategic pathway number 7, which talks about innovation, partnership, and collaboration is very important in academia, and then capacity and education. Now, there are 4 blocks that you see, especially in strategic pathway framework number 8, where they talk about awareness, formal education, professional training, and entrepreneurship. The last slide, the last 2 slides, what I've shown to you, it talks about formal education and professional education. Now, as you can see on the right-hand side, we have enrollment of around 70,000 students every year in geography at post-graduation level. And similarly, we have around more than 3 lakh students at the PG level, especially in engineering and technology. So this is where I think the future lies, and Indian academia is not going to play the role for a country-specific development agenda.
For the sake of a larger program, could you please allow the others to speak, please? We can see it here. Please.
So as a global village, the theme of the upcoming event, I think India has a major role to play. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Punia. Now we'll quickly move to the next speaker, Ms. Deborah Thomas. She's from Foundation for Environment Security, which is a civil society organization working for the improvement of the disadvantaged society using geospatial information. Ms. Thomas, please.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can my set of slides be put on the screen, please? Okay, thank you. Good evening, good morning, everyone, depending on where in the world you're in. I'm Deborah from the Foundation for Ecological Security. My short presentation at today's session is on how we at FES aim to democratize both spatial and non-spatial data for those disadvantaged, marginalized, and at the peripheries of the data and information systems. So FES, next slide, please. So FES is a grassroots organization, NGO, that works with rural communities in ecologically degraded regions of India. Our work is centered on the ability of communities to steward their natural resource systems through institutions of self-local governance and thus enable improved livelihoods and socio-ecological outcomes. So over the last 2 decades or so, we, along with partners, have helped some 30,000 villages reclaim and steward 8.7 million acres of forest and pasture common lands, repositioning the metaphorical tragedy of the commons as the promise of the commons. Next slide, please. So, but for people and communities to steward their natural resources at landscape level, for example, a hill range, a forest, or a watershed, in addition to traditional knowledge and understanding of their surroundings, they would further be enabled with a bird's eye. And this can be provided by maps and other non-spatial data. However, more often than not, this information is not in forms that are intelligible to them, nor do they reflect the socio-economic and ecological interdependencies at the local level. Resource systems and surroundings are the people's infrastructure, and thus their dispossession from information about this infrastructure is highly disadvantageous to them. Moreover, what of the birds, animals, and other forms of life that can't speak for themselves? Do our GIS and data systems adequately speak for biodiversity and its related information? Technology and the lack of access to it, either due to financial or literacy constraints, gender, physical disability, accentuates these people's and the other life forms' already vulnerable position. The need is that they should be seen as equals and not as beneficiaries to save the planet. With all the technical advancements that we have, surely it is not difficult to address these challenges. Can the work of GIS be bereft of such ethical responsibility? Next slide, please. So about 10 years ago, we launched an initiative titled the India Observatory. This is essentially a technical intervention which combines over 1,800 disparate data sets through collaborations with different government and civil society organizations, contextualizing this data geospatially to supplement decision-making of village people for governance of their forest, land, and water resources at the local level. We have built some 12 tools on open source aimed at semi-literate people. These tools work offline on smartphones in local languages with easy to interpret codes. Next slide, please. So in this is a snapshot of 3 tools that we have built. GIS-based tools for local planning and action. The diagram on the left, the first one, shows the color-coded map produced by a tool called the Composite Landscape Assessment and Restoration Tool, CLART, to help people decide what is the most suited water recharge structure that can be built in their area based on geological and hydrological and land use data. So as you can see, they use color codes, and this is used for planning local MGNR-EGS work. The tool is designed in such a way so that plans can be created and vetted without the need for engineers. A related tool, and seen in the next 3 pictures, is the groundwater monitoring tool. The publicly available data set on groundwater data, say from the CGWB, does not adequately cover the water scarce regions of India, nor is it granular enough to aid local planning and conservation strategies. Through the GWMT, this public data set is complemented through geotagging well water levels, which we collect through this tool twice a year, pre-monsoon and post-monsoon. And this is used to generate more accurate recommendations through the first tool that we saw, which is the CLART. The last image on the bottom right is a snapshot of some of our COVID-related efforts, where location-based data was used to aid health seekers in their search for information on facilities nearest them during COVID. Next slide, please. So the India Observatory of FES is just one information system and one initiative, but the challenges that we face are planetary: water scarcity, climate extremes, loss of habitat, ecological degradation, poverty, declining rural livelihoods, etc. Thus, we need to join hands and collaborate. We need both public and private entities converging external knowledge with traditional knowledge through open ecosystems, interoperability, common standards, protocol, placing the first mile at the center and building a local knowledge commons. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Deborah. Now we come to the last panelist speaker, the youngest panelist speaker in this session, Ms. Mahika Shrivastava. She is a 12th grade student from Delhi Public School, New Delhi, and she will give the youth perspective on the geospatial information for sustainable development goals. Over to Ms. Mahika.
Greetings to everyone. Geospatial technology plays a key role in our everyday life. It is so powerful that it could be used to implement Sustainable Development Goals or SDG, which are laid down by United Nations and are to be achieved by 2030. As you know, there are total 17 SDGs in number, among which I will be talking about a few, especially in Indian context, and highlight involvement of youth as an important component of Indian geospatial ecosystem. SDG 1 is no poverty. It calls for an end to poverty in all forms by 2030. It also aims to ensure social protection for the poor, increased access to basic services, and support people harmed by climate-related extreme events and other disasters. As we know, there is so much disparity between the rich and the poor in the urban and rural parts that we can use geospatial technology to map those areas where there is significant amount of population living below the poverty line. Also, geospatial technology is useful for predicting weather conditions that people could be evacuated before a cyclone or any other disaster strikes. It will save many lives and will reduce economic damage considerably. SDG 2 is zero hunger. This goal targets at ending hunger, achieve food security, and improved nutrition by 2030. Geospatial technology can be used in the field of agriculture. With the help of it, we could understand the fertility of the soil in a large area and keep a check on the type of crops that can be grown. This is known as precision farming. It would improve the quality of the harvest, increase productivity, and would also reduce food scarcity. SDG 7 is affordable and clean energy. This goal aims at ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all by 2030. Another important aspect of sustainable development is the utilization of various types of energy, such as wind, solar, and water energy. We could analyze the areas where the windmills could be set up for the creation of energy and locate fast-moving water bodies with the help of geospatial technology. SDG 13 is climate action, to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Pollution is posing a major threat to the ecosystem. Geospatial technology would help in minimizing gaseous emissions, especially from factories, by analyzing those areas where the AQI has reached hazardous levels and is causing health problems to humans and animals alike, and other issues to the environment such as global warming, acid rain, depletion of ozone layer, etc. SDG 14 is life below water. This goal aims at conserving and sustainably using the oceans, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Geospatial technology could be used in the field of fishing. It could be used to locate the better availability of fishes. It would also prevent overfishing and the aquatic life would not be disturbed. SDG 15 is life on land. To protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems, combat desertification, and halt biodiversity loss. By using geospatial technology, we could check the spread of forest area. It would create awareness about our ecosystem and the need to protect wildlife. It would compel to create open green spaces in the urban areas to keep ecological balance. It would also promote afforestation in the wasteland. There would be check on exploitative wood cutting and poaching. Youth are the torchbearers of the 2030 agenda. We, the youth, all over the world are contributing to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. We get involved in NGOs and engage ourselves in local politics. It gives us an opportunity to demand change in our local communities. We quickly learn new skills and we promote geospatial technology for the betterment of the world. There is no doubt that the geospatial technology is bringing positive changes to the environment. We all must contribute to make the world a better place to live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Maika. With this, we come to the end of this session on 360-degree view of India's emerging geospatial ecosystem. And now I hand over the floor to Dr. Devpriya Datta for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra. And I think I have a challenge, between the third sessions to, to cover the gap, like what in the initial excitement of organizing we have covered. So this sessions will be, it's basically on the, as you know, that the proposed core theme of the second UN World Geospatial Information Congress is Geo-enabling the global village. We have 4 distinguished members of the global geospatial community with us. So in order to, the manage our time, we are going to basically tell them 2 aspects to present their view. The first is their comments on the proposed core theme. And the second is what are the sessions or the other activities they would suggest or look forward in the second UNWGIC 2020 in Hyderabad, in India, to highlight the core theme. So due to the time constraint, it's my earnest request to make the comments very focused and let us restrict it sub 5 minutes. I told them 5 minutes, but now it's a challenge. So I will start with Mr. Stefan Schwentest, Director of the UN Statistics Divisions. Stefan, it's on you, and you as in, the organizer of these UNWGIC. What is your view on the proposed theme and what you want to see? Stefan, please.
Thank you very much, and hello to all of my friends in India, and congratulations still to your National Independence Day yesterday. We'll celebrate next year together. I'm very excited to coming to India next year. I've had the pleasure of being in Hyderabad, and I have already tasted the wonderful hospitality and the interesting combination of tradition and modernity, which we have already seen in your presentations today. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And Sanjay, my dear friend, has taught me a lot about India and public-private partnerships and communication, and also the importance of geospatial knowledge infrastructure. The UN, I'm the transition to the international voices. You will hear voices from all over the world in the next couple of minutes and sharing the perspectives after we have learned so much from the Indian ecosystem, which is really, truly impressive. Let me just put the second Congress for a few seconds in the context. The United Nations Global Geospatial Information Management committee is now 10 years old. I think we have created a wonderful international global community. It is primarily an intergovernmental process, and we will have our intergovernmental meeting in just a week. But the Congress plays an important role because we need to have partners. We need to have partners in the private sector, in the international agencies, in academia, and you've already given us a taste for that, and the Congress is the place to do that, is the platform to exchange new ideas, to connect everybody across the world and across the various themes and sectors. So I'm very much looking forward to it. And this is only the second Congress, so I think there's still a lot of creativity and flexibility of how we can do that. You were asking for themes. Let me give you 3 themes. One is our integrated geospatial information framework that needs to be implemented around the world. So we are looking for examples, and India is certainly one, but others for our countries to learn how to do that. A second theme is, of course, to support the various policy agendas. We just heard about the SDGs, and we have, of course, the Sendai framework, and we have the challenge of coming out of COVID with an equitable and green recovery structure. So those are, and the most important theme that I would like to suggest is the voice of youth. And we just heard Mahika giving a passionate presentation, and the young people are our future. So I was very impressed that India included the voice of young people, and that should definitely be a central theme of the Congress. So those are a couple of suggestions. The International Advisory Committee will help to put a program together. And I'm very excited to looking at all of these themes. Let me conclude with one little reflection on the theme. I really like the expression global village. I come from a very small village in Germany, and I was just thinking yesterday, what does village mean? And village means that people know each other, people share a common culture, and people look out for each other. And I think if with this Congress, we can achieve that as a global geospatial community, knowing each other better, respecting each other, learning from each other, and looking out for each other based on a shared professional culture, it will be a tremendous success. So I'm very much looking forward to next year. Thank you for this curtain raiser event.
Thank you, Stefan. And like in the spirit of the global village, let me invite the next villager, Mr. Rolando Ocampo. I think he is basically championing the geospatial and the statistical data integrations in the UNWGIC. And Mr. Ocampo, it's for your views, please.
Thank you, and good day to all of you. It is a pleasure to be here, and I wanted to thank for your kind invitation to participate in this relevant discussion panel. I would like also take this opportunity to congratulate the government of India for hosting this Congress during the festivities of the 75th anniversary of their independence. As the central theme of the Congress points out, our challenge is to geospatially enable the global village, a concept that refers to an increasingly interconnected world due to the rapid spread of technologies. This interconnection within our extensive geospatial community has several application and growth spaces. I will list three of them. The first, the interconnection within the ecosystem of data for sustainable development, which includes geospatial information, statistical data, data from Earth observation, and data for alternative sources. In this case, the global village should translate into a call to all producers involved in this data ecosystem to work in a coordinated and collaborative way, taking advantage of technology to achieve interoperability, integration, and production of knowledge. Second, the concept of a global village entails a need for interconnection between these data ecosystems for sustainable development at different territorial levels. It is worth emphasizing that national information systems can articulate the connection between subnational levels, collecting data and information from local administrative bodies to aggregate them on a country level and then scale them up to regional and global levels. And finally, the global village implies the interconnection of diverse communities to generate virtuous alliance and cooperation platforms between state institutions, academic entities, the private sector, and experts from civil society to give better support for social, environmental, and economic development, both on a global and planetary level. And remember, leave no one behind. Following all these concepts in the Americas, we are working intensively to enable the global village geospatially. To mention a few examples, we are committed to making alliance between various actors to construct a regional geospatial data infrastructure. Also, through the CARIGEO initiative led by UNWGIC Americas, we are building capacity in the Caribbean region. Furthermore, we impulse the development of platforms to integrate and display the statistical and geospatial data, such as our CEPAL stat, which today adds more than 100 layers of geographic information. And finally, the execution of projects to implement GeoPortal in National Statistical Office with the support of the European Union impulse. Today, we have a clearly defined driver and relevant work guidelines to support the geospatial enablement of the global village, provided by the UNWGIC Committee of Experts and its associated networks and bodies. The defined driver is based on the concept of the geospatial knowledge infrastructure, which has been developed and widely discussed in the last 2 years. The GKI presents an evolution from data management to knowledge management, with a strong emphasis on technological support, the integration of data from various sources, and the participation and interconnection of communities. On the other hand, among the relevant guidelines, I would like to feature the value of integrating geospatial information framework, the IGIF, as a tool to facilitate progress in the indicated direction. All IGIF strategic pathways provide elements to geospatially enable the global village and support various interconnections I mentioned at the beginning of my intervention, especially focus on the strategic path for innovation, which encourage using cutting-edge technologies, process improvement, and the adoption of state-of-the-art systems and practices. To conclude, dear colleagues, I consider that the next World Congress on Geospatial Information is open to a diversity of inhabitants of this global village to collect all the experience, knowledge, and proposal. Likewise, with the framework of this meeting, the subject of geospatial knowledge infrastructure and the perspectives of the implementation of the IGIF are also central in the debate. With this last idea, I close my participation in this session, and I appreciate your attention. And once again, thank you for the opportunity to share with you this valuable discussion. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Gracias, Mr. Ocampo, and thank you very much. And I think no one should be left behind in this global village. With that, the philosophy, let me invite Dr. Bandal Al-Musalmani, the Vice President of GASGI, Saudi Arabia, and the Chair of the UNWGIC Arab States, to the view on this theme from the Arab States. Dr. Musalmani, please.
Thank you very much, and hello everyone. Adding to what Stephen and Ronaldo adding on the proposed core theme, I would like to add, firstly, the capacity building for next generation geospatial participants. Also, I would like to add the call for actions, geospatial community response to the climate change, as well as technology trends for what is the next disruptive things for geospatial community. Also, for Arab states members will attend, we would like also to see what is Indian experience in the industry and also in the academia and also in the technology. But this is also the one of the expectation on the proposed theme for the second UNWGIC. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Musalmani, and very crisply you have, brought out the points and really helped us in managing the time. And so, in order to, strengthen this view from the other part of the world, I invite Ms. Rosamund Carter Being, the Chief Executive Officer for the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Tonga, and the Co-Chairman of UNWGIC. Ms. Being, please. Ms. Rosamund Being, please. Yeah.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please.
Good evening from the international deadline in the Pacific Ocean. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak in my capacity as a co-chair of the UNWGIC and to share some thoughts on the theme, Geo-enabling the global village. I must say it's a very insightful theme, and in my view, it encompasses the spirit and the essence of the IGIF. So to that end, I believe that the thought and the insights put towards this theme encompasses one of the major themes of the IGIF, which is to bridge the digital divide. So in that regard, there are three issues and three themes that I would like to propose to be considered. What I'm most passionate about, coming from a small island development state and following on from the theme of village, where village really is the essence of our lives, empowering citizens to learn and to make decisions about what's affecting their lives, what's affecting their livelihoods, what's affecting the communities, I think is very important. Secondly, the consolidation of information, the sharing of information accessible at all levels, from the village level up to the decision makers. Thirdly, and we've spoken about this by previous speakers, is collaboration. And it's collaboration, interagency. As a CEO of a government agency that centralizes our land administration, land use and land development, interagency collaboration is key. Coordination and the support of the private sector as well is just as important. The academia that we heard about previously, the NGOs, and speaking from a regional perspective from the Asia Pacific and the Pacific region itself, these are core themes that I would like to see, and I would like to propose be part of what will be part of our event in the coming year. Now, as is always the case, when I speak together with Mr. Stefan, one of us will steal each other's thunder. And because he spoke first, he stole my thunder. I'm very passionate about the young professionals and the role of young professionals, in particular with our previous speakers on from the Indian perspective. So that's where I would like to see some emphasis, so that the ideas, the creativity, innovation, and the energy that we bring to this profession presently into the future will be taken on by young professionals. So that's where I hope we will be seeing more of in the coming year, next year's event. I stay committed to assist as much as I can, and look forward to next year. Congratulations on convening today's event, and we look forward to next year in the journey towards convening the next Congress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Razaman Being, for bringing the smell of the village, the global village in your, the talk. We are getting to the smell of the global village, and with the, the philosophy of the SDG 17, we go to the next, the sessions, which is global collaborative opportunity for supporting and strengthening the second UNWGIC, and I hand it over to my colleague, Mr. P.S. Acharya. Mr. Acharya, please.
Thank you, Dr. Datta, for a very well-organized session. In fact, the theme of the second UNWGIC was the focus in the third session. But in this session, in the fourth session, we are going to discuss and listen to a panel of esteemed experts from different countries on global collaborative opportunities for supporting and strengthening the organization of the Congress. This good evening once again to all of you, and we would request the speakers to stick to less than 5 minutes because there is not enough time. But we would like to hear the speakers, the experts, on what we should expect from the sessions and what should be the sessions or other activities that we all look forward to in the second UNWGIC. Thus, in order to discuss those or listen to the experts, I would like to invite the Surveyor General of India, Mr. Naveen Tomar, who also happens to be the Executive Board Member of UNWGIC Asia and the Pacific. Mr. Tomar, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Greetings to all of you. It's a matter of great pleasure that Department of Science and Technology, Government of India in particular, will host the second World Geospatial Information Congress in October 2022. The purpose behind today's side event is to deliberate upon the possible collaborative opportunities that exist among us. The second United Nations World Geospatial Information Congress will address the theme Geo-enabling the global village. Thanks to internet and electronic communication, the world today has become a global village. The second UNWGIC event will bring together the representatives of member nations and stakeholders at the highest level to address the theme so that global community comes closer. We see a lot of areas in which we can collaboratively work for realizing the core theme of second UNWGIC. I would like to suggest 4 such collaborative opportunities where different member nations could deliberate in the various sessions of the upcoming event. A global geodetic reference frame is not only important for consistency in geospatial measurements across the globe, but it is also very important for studying problems of global geodynamics with direct application to global plate tectonics. A possible collaboration could be in the area of geodesy, focusing on the underlying science, improvement of geodetic frameworks, development of geodetic infrastructure and applications. I propose for a dedicated session in the second UNWGIC on geodetic science, infrastructure and application for sharing relevant experiences and working out strategies for collaboration amongst the member states. Over the last few years, Government of India and state governments have jointly embarked upon the preparing high-resolution parcel boundary datasets for the inhabited areas of our countryside using UAVs to facilitate land administration process under a nationwide Swamitva program. The maps so prepared are being used to issue ownership cards to the owners of the inhabited plots, bringing social and economic empowerment. UNWGIC would be a great platform for sharing, exchanging relevant knowledge and experiences in the area of cadastral systems for benefit of all. I propose for a dedicated session in the second UNWGIC on high resolution survey for a fully digital cadastral system. The spread of novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has taught the world community and governments the necessity of such live data about their system to encounter such unprecedented situations. The participating member nation may share their national experiences, including their implementation strategies of Global Statistical Geospatial Frame, GSGF. I propose to have a dedicated session on the integration of statistical data and geospatial information. And lastly, we could consider having a session on international collaboration for implementing Integrated Geospatial Information Framework, IGIF. The conceptual framework of IGIF has already been adopted by UNWGIC to act as an implementation guide to member countries for strengthening their national geospatial information management arrangements. Several countries are developing national level plan according to their national priorities, perspectives and circumstances. In my view, the Integrated Geospatial Information Framework lies at the heart of devising suitable strategies for achieving the sustainable development goals. With these few words, I urge the member nations to consider, define and help us to draw suitable sub-themes for the second UNWGIC in order to have a substantive and successful deliberation for possible recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tomar, Surveyor General of India, and very clear-cut recommendations for the sessions for the second UNWGIC. This would help us take things forward. And now I request Mr. Simon Costello, Chief of Space and Communities Division, Geoscience Australia, from Australia, please. Mr. Costello, please.
Thank you very much and hello everyone. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this panel in my role as lead of Australia's National Mapping Program and as President of the United Nations Regional Committee of Experts on Global Geospatial Information Management for Asia Pacific. I'd like to pass on my congratulations to India, both for your 75th anniversary of independence and for your great results at the Olympics, although the less said about the hockey results, the better. When asked to speak on what I might look forward to at the Second World Geospatial Information Congress, I considered three questions. What's changed between the first Congress and the second? Why collaborate globally? And what makes great collaboration? Let us ask ourselves what has changed since the 2018 Congress in China. The Sustainable Development Goals still remain an important global driver. But since then, three major existential threats and opportunities have arisen, all of which have been touched on in today's session by previous speakers. These are the increasing effects of climate change on our society and well-being, the rapid spread of COVID-19 and the likelihood that we will have to live with COVID-19 into the future, and the further uptake of digital technology into the lives of many of our citizens. These are issues which do not stop at our borders. Government policymakers want evidence to defend their policy. Our businesses want the competitive edge to plan new ventures no matter where in the world they operate. And our citizens are curious. They want to be part of the discussions that affect their local communities and their livelihoods. All want the ability to answer their questions using personalised data about their neighbourhoods, their regions and their nations. Great teams share two characteristics. They need a set of shared issues which motivate them, and the team members have clear yet complementary roles. For our global village to be sustainable, our ministers and policymakers, our data and digital experts in business, our geospatial experts, and our users all have unique perspectives and roles that can be brought to bear to address our global issues. If I may, I suggest having the Congress consider what strengths each of these villages bring to mitigating the risks and solving the problems facing our global village. From a geospatial perspective, this might include sessions looking at our common barriers, such as how we grow the depth of our geospatial expertise, how we as geospatial experts stay hooked into national policy development and continue to show our relevance, and how those different sectors I mentioned earlier might work together to address those common challenges. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you all at the second Congress.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Costello. Your thoughts are really going to inspire and help us for further. I now request Mrs. Deirdre Dalpeaz Bishop, Chief of the Geography Division, U.S. Census Bureau from the United States of America.
You have to unmute, Acharya ji, you have to unmute. You're muted, you have to unmute.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
It's not audible.
You are able to hear us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. You are
wonderful.
Audible. Kindly go ahead. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings to everyone in India and around the globe today. Thank you for the invitation to be part of this important panel and to share some thoughts on opportunities to globally cooperate in support of the next World Geospatial Information Congress in 2022. I really like the theme that's been selected, Geo-enabling the global village, because over the past few years, there's been a lot of activity focused on the development of strategies and tools to make this happen. For example, the completion of the Global Statistical Geospatial Framework, or GSGF, and an associated e-learning tool, currently available on the website of the Pan American Institute of Geography and History. Also, the development of the Integrated Geospatial Information Framework, or IGIF, that we've heard so much about today. Part 1 of the IGIF is the Overarching Strategic Framework, a strategic policy guide used to educate decision makers about the value of geospatial information and its management. The overarching strategic framework explains the why and includes the 9 strategic pathways that many have spoken about today. Part 2 of the IGIF is the implementation guide, a reference resource that describes the what, actions that can be taken to strengthen the management of geospatial information around the globe. It provides guidance through the 9 strategic pathways that is general enough to be applicable to all countries. The implementation guide may be used as a partner or a primer document in the development of country-level action plans. This guide is in the final phases of refinement and completion. As we think about and plan for the next World Geospatial Information Congress in 2022, I think it will be beneficial to conduct sessions focused on the strategies and tools that countries may use to become more geo-enabled, such as the GSGF and the IGIF. I think it would be very interesting to hear from, first, developing countries that have successfully used the strategies and tools to implement their frameworks, including the development of country-level action plans that have allowed for and will allow for further development of geo-enabled villages. Second, it will be interesting to hear from developed countries, like India, that have used the tools to enhance their learning, methods, and standards to further enhance existing geospatial systems, software, and application. As for activities leading up to the next Congress, I would like to suggest that as a global community, we work together to refine and complete Part 2 of the IGIF, the Implementation Guide. This will put us in a good position to have proper feedback on its use prior to the World Information Geospatial Congress. In preparation for this panel, I was asked to think about key recommendations that I would expect out of the World Geospatial Information Congress sessions to help advance the adoption of the IGIF toward achieving the SDGs through bilateral or multilateral collaborations. In response to this request, I'll share that last week I attended another side event focused on the IGIF, and the common theme throughout the discussion was that we are stronger together. We're a community of experts that are willing to work together to address and solve challenging problems and use geospatial and statistical information to develop solutions. I think this is an important recommendation coming out of our sessions of the World Geospatial Information Congress will focus on next steps. Namely, first, how do we use the strategies and tools we've developed to date to geo-enable the globe? Second, how do we adequately tie the statistical information that's being collected in support of the SDGs to the geospatial framework? And third, and finally, how do we report the information in a format that's clear and usable by our stakeholders and the decision-making community at large? Thank you for your attention today. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bishop. We are now really at the threshold of the time. It's already 9:30. Here in India, we are 3 minutes past 7. But still, considering this engagement, we propose to extend the duration of this session by 10 more minutes with the support of approval of the UNWGIC headquarters. Yeah, nice. Thank you, Stephen. Yes, so we will go ahead. Thank you very much, and we will now request Mr. Rob van de Velde, Director Geoenabling, the Netherlands, to tell us about his impressions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the invite, and greetings to all of you in India. And although time is scarce, I will not forget to congratulate the people of India with the 75th anniversary of your country, but also with the exciting and very challenging geospatial policy, which was recently adopted. Geospatial policy is one of the issues which has been of our concern in this little country in Europe, in the Netherlands, for about 10 years. And I would like to go straight to a few recommendations for the conference next year. First of all, I think that has been said by many of you, that the idea of sharing what are state-of-the-art strategies. So you have goals and you have policies, but what do you do in real life? What can you do together? And I really appreciate the idea of involving people from all parts of society, young people, people from the academics, to think about what are practical steps we could do to come from a time frame where geospatial data has become a commodity, but still has to grow in impact. So what could we do step by step to get more impact? The second recommendation for the workshops and for the conference would be to stick to this really challenging item of climate change, because what we have learned in the Netherlands recently, because we had some extreme flooding, that the power of information, but also the power of forecasting, of imagination, is very strong. So how can we be, as I said again, have more impact with all the data, with all the tools on the issues of climate change, and what type of climate actions can be developed by using our knowledge? Because together as a community, as has been said by this previous speaker, we know so much already. So we have to work together on that. And the third point would be that, in my strong belief, we have made a lot of focus and progress on, let's say, the location part, but time is the other big thing. So what are the challenging in bringing together all the things we know on location, all our geographical knowledge, but also the knowledge and the insights which come from science about what will be the impact, and can we play with the future? Can we discuss the future by imagining it? And therefore this concept of digital twins. So for instance, working together in the conference on a sort of cookbook for digital twinning would be my suggestion for the conference. Thank you very much for sharing my thoughts today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Welde. We would like to see you next year to get further details. I would now request Dr. Victor Fu, Director, Survey and Geometrics, Singapore Land Authority, Singapore, to provide his views.
Greetings, everyone around the world. I'm Victor Fu from the Singapore Land Authority. First of all, before I start, let me congratulate Government of India for the celebration of the 75th anniversary of independence. I am grateful that I'm given this opportunity to share my views from the perspective of small states and urban city states. What we requested, what we are looking at may be different from bigger states from around the world. So I especially very interested in the theme towards geo-enabling the global village. Global village, in fact, there are only a few words, very simple words, but global village gives us the idea of collaboration. But geo-enabling is a verb here. I would like to focus on this geo-enabling. In the geospatial ecosystem, we look at two main portions. One is the provider, and the other one is the user or other user. So from our perspective, we have to cover both sector or both areas from a provider's perspective as well as from the users or applications perspective. From the provider's perspective, generally we are looking at three major areas. One is positioning, mapping, as well as surveying. When we talk about surveying, we are talking about cadastral survey, large-scale topographic, as well as land administration. This is one big area, the provider side. Mapping, obviously, national mapping is very important, and all kinds of new types of mapping, be it 2D, 3D, state-of-the-art technology. This is an important area for us to discuss in the conference, so that from a provider perspective, we can cover this area. And of course, last but not least, positioning. I think I totally agree that we should be looking at infrastructure, survey infrastructure, GNSS infrastructure, and the different types of infrastructure for monitoring, because I think this is the aspect of positioning, right? So coming to the other side, which is the user side or the application sides, from our perspective, we should look at it in 6 different areas. One is security and safety. The second one is infrastructure development. Third is urban planning, especially from a city perspective. We are looking at urban planning as an important application. Fourth is resource management. I think for all places, resources are scarce and resource management is important. Environmental risk, and this area covers climate change. And last but not least, smart city or smart nation. So what from a Singapore's perspective, this is the arrangement and the coverage that we think that the conference should cover. And of course, from the UNWGIC in China, we also learned that there is one very innovative way of conducting the session. I think special interest session can be a consideration. Special interest session can be run by a group or can be suggested by member states. And this is something that you would not expect. Some special areas that can be discussed during the sessions. So I would like to stop my sharing here, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ko. Actually, there is a power outage, so my colleague, I'm replacing a colleague, Ms. Bataria. And the last the speaker whom I would like to invite is Dr. Zafar Muhammad Kaus. Many of you know him in India. He's a board member of UN Geospatial Society. Dr. Kaus, your views, please. Dr. Zafar.
Namaste and congratulations to all to my Indian brothers and sisters on the 75th anniversary. I'd like to very crisply go to the points that I would like to share. I think first one, I would like to think and reflect upon this is we are all men over here, a majority. I think women in geospatial, a theme, the empowerment of the diversity and inclusion is very important for us to survive. A youth forum, a call for action, as the co-chair and also Stefan had mentioned, a youth forum. More and more, I think it is also about geoethics, responsible use of geospatial information, which will produce and contribute to the SDGs is very important. And therefore, I think ethics in the geospatial profession is very important. And I also call for
Dr. Zafar, we have lost you. Dr.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello.
Yes. I think folks can hear me, Dr. Datta. I'll continue. And lastly, I think it's around the standards and how do we apply them. And we talk to ourselves, our geospatial community, but I think it'll be nice to see how other ministries in India have used geospatial information successfully. And there is a number of opportunities to socialize
can you hear me?
this. Yes, Dr. Datta, I think you have a poor connection. Other people are able to hear me very clearly.
Yeah. Now it's fine. It's fine, Dr. Zafar. Yeah.
So, sorry about that. I end here with Down Under from Australia, wishing you all success. These are my points. Like to look forward to see you all at the UNWGIC in Hyderabad. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zafar, and you being the last speaker. So this is now on to the UNGTM. We have only short of 8 minutes, rather 10 minutes than the allocated time. So it's 9:40 now in the New York. So from our side, We really thank all, especially first our colleagues from like UNGGIM, Mr. Stefan and his team, and also like all the speakers. We have got very little time for this, and we have like you have responded to our the invitations from all sides of the world. We have tried to make it as much as possible inclusive to the showcase that what's the the aspirations of the global community towards to make a second UNWGIC as a platform to take forward the geospatial the technology and the informations foreign backbone of SDGs, and where it should be like where no one should be left behind. And in this context, I really thank on behalf of the Department of Science and Technology, like we have like our secretary has always supported us, but a special thanks to all of you I see here. We started around 195 the attendance, and there are around 151. Many of you are like are the luminaries in the world of the geospatial the technology and the informations, and there are many my earlier colleagues, my predecessors, so they are there, and many young people. So with the the philosophy that what we are getting in today's discussions, that no one should be left behind, and geospatial technology will be will be showcased as the backbone for the involvement of the youth and the disadvantaged part of the society, and all part of the society, so that we can really the showcase for the last 3 decades of India's geospatial ecosystem development. We can be contributors to the global development, global peace, and the global geospatial science and technology. Thank you. Dhanabad. Namaste.
Thank you.
And still, I request you, like, since we couldn't take in question answer sessions, so please, if you any suggestions, any ideas, any questions, write it to us. Like, I'm just sending my email on the the chat box, so you can send your ideas, your thoughts, because this coming 1 year we will have a series of events in different parts of the India and the world, and which will culminate into the second UNWGIC in October 2020. Thank you again. Thank you for all of you to be with us. And
thank you. Thank you.
Let's like invite and see you in Hyderabad 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Fantastic event.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mahika.
everybody.
Special thanks to you.
Greetings from New York.
Dr. Raja.
Thank you.
In India.
Raja.
Congrats, Dr. Dutta, for a great event.
Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan.
Very good session.